Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for the Clean Energy Metals Investor Conference. Our next presentation is from Resolution Minerals. Please note, you may submit questions for the presenters in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Craig Lindsay. He's the Chief Executive Officer, and Steve Prominence. He's the Strategic Advisor of Resolution Minerals, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol RLMLF and on the ASX under the symbol RML. Welcome, Craig and Steve.
John, thank you very much for having us today. To the audience, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Very excited to be here today to talk to you and introduce you to Resolution Minerals Limited. It's a very exciting company. This is a company that's focused on antimony, tungsten, and gold. And what's exciting is that we've got a very large-scale project in Idaho, and that's what Steve and I are going to talk to you about today. First off, disclaimer, anyone who's thinking of investing in this company should review this disclaimer statement while they're reviewing this presentation. First off here, our first slide, what makes Resolution Minerals Limited special? We got 7 things down here, and I'm going to speak to all 7 of those things. So what you're looking at here with Resolution Minerals is a company that's into critical metals and precious metals, antimony, tungsten, and gold. So we've got commodities that are in high demand. Prices are soaring for these things. So you've got the right commodities. It's the right time. Right now in the United States, antimony and tungsten are critical to national security, and the US government has a big push on, as everyone knows, to develop domestic supplies of critical metals, and we want to play a big role in that whole push by the US government. Right location. We are immediately adjacent to Perpetua Resources' Stibnite mine. Perpetua, a US $1.8 billion market cap company with a fully permitted gold and antimony mine, which is going through a financing phase and will be going into production in the next couple of years as a very large open pit gold mine that will also produce about 35% of the United States antimony. Right team, I'm going to speak to this a little bit later. My math is bad here because we say 100 years of project development experience. There's actually over 200 years of project development experience with our team. And we've put together a really strong US-based team of geologists, permitting guys, as well as development folks and financing team to help grow this project. We want to be a player from soup to nuts in a critical metals supply chain. So we don't want to just be explorers. We want to move this project right through to development and production. Yes, this is a critical metal story with antimony and tungsten, but gold is going to be a big, big backstory that's going to be anchoring Resolution Minerals as we move forward. And then in terms of finance, we are well financed. So we've just recently appointed Roth Capital Advisors to help us with a NASDAQ listing. So lots on the agenda for us as we move forward. Critical metals. It's a big theme in the United States right now. Antimony is something that is going to be a big story that you're going to hear about today. It's super critical, we call it. It's indispensable to the United States from a defense perspective. There's right now, today, there's no US antimony in production, and the US government is pushing hard for domestic sources of production. One of the big reasons why is because China, the largest producer of antimony, has banned exports to the United States. I'll now move on to slide 5 and talk a little bit about what we call the Horse Heaven Project. Again, it's antimony, it's gold, it's tungsten. We are located in the state of Idaho. Idaho is a very mining friendly state, long history of mining in the state, up in the northwestern portion of the state, up in what we call the Panhandle, high grade silver mines in the southeastern portion of the state. There's very large open pit phosphate mines in the more central portion of the state. There's a large molybdenum mine. So a lot of base metals. Precious metals are also a big story in the state. It is a Republican state. It's very, very supportive of business. The governor of the state has just put in something called the SPEED Act to help the federal permitting authorities work in concert with state permitting authorities and local authorities to move things along quickly. Our project itself, it's about 14,000 acres. We've got 699 federal lode mining claims located in the Boise National Forest. And we've got, in our business, we refer to it as closeology. We're right next to the Stibnite mine operated by Perpetua Resources. So we're in a very, very good postal code from that perspective. We've got mineralization, gold mineralization from surface that's we're going to talk about, and there's lots of potential to grow of the gold endowment at Horse Heaven. But just as importantly, and the thing that's very critical here, is that this project produced antimony historically in the First World War, the Second World War, into the 1950s with the Korean War. So we do have past production of antimony on our project. We've also got past production of tungsten. So you've got gold as a backstop, and you've got a history of antimony and tungsten production. As I said, we've got this project is fully permitted for a 57-hole drill program. We are drilling right now. What's exciting, we're drilling right now in a 10,000-foot initial drill program. Hope to get about 10 holes done initially and grow that. And so we've got a big resource estimate upcoming for 2026. What we want to do, in terms of advancing the story, we're moving aggressively. Yes, this is an exploration story, and we're going to be working hard over the next 2 years from an exploration perspective to establish gold, antimony, and tungsten resources that are economic in nature. But on a parallel basis, we are thinking forward. We're looking at how are we going to move this story into production, and that's something that Steve is going to talk a little bit about. We've got two key targets on the project. Well, I call it low-hanging fruit. Golden Gate. At Golden Gate, we've got gold, tungsten, and antimony, and then we've got something called Antimony Ridge that has antimony, gold, and silver on it. These are, I call them high priority and low hanging fruit because they have been the source of past production of antimony, tungsten, and also some small scale historic gold mining. We've talked a little bit about tungsten and antimony critical metals, but I keep talking about this backdrop of gold. And gold is always a fast way to return capital on a mining project, particularly an open pit heap leach story that has low capital costs. And that's something that we are focused on at this project. There is a historic non-43-101 compliant resource out at Horse Heaven. And we are going to be growing that resource aggressively in parallel to growing our endowment of tungsten and antimony. I talk here a little bit about some of the historic numbers that are out there. 36.6 meters of 1.5 grams per ton gold, 70 meters of 1.37 grams per ton gold. All of the holes that have been drilled historically have been at the Golden Gate target. None of them have been drilled deeper than 500 feet, so it was only drilled for oxide gold. We're going to be drilling deeper into the sulfides. I want you to think about these grades that I'm showing you of 1.5 and 1.4 grams per ton. That's right at the gold grade of the stibnite mine next door. This non 43-101 compliant gold resource that we talk about between 100 and 300,000 ounces of gold, it's at the Golden Gate target. I say it's non 43-101 compliant because not a sufficient amount of drilling has been done to confirm a current resource estimate. But the fact that historic drilling has been done on this project in 1986, 1987 and 1994, and the prior operators have put together historic gold resources, tell a strong story about the gold endowment potential. This Golden Gate story, it is the strike length is 3 kilometers long. It's a half kilometer wide. There's a lot of room to grow. And as I mentioned, we've just started a drilling program in August that's going to run through to the end of September. So we've got a first phase drill program, and that's something exciting for a company that's just acquired this project. We're already into a drill campaign, and you will see drill results coming out later in 2025. Probably the most important thing of any company you look at is the team. My background is corporate finance, investment banking. I've spent a bunch of time down in the US developing mining projects in the uranium space and in the gold space. I've had almost 10 years of experience in the state of Idaho itself, developing something called the Kilgore Gold Project, which we sold to a company called Exelon Resources. Enough about me. The guys who are going to make money for investors in this company are the technical team. Bill Breen is our technical lead. He's been associated with this project for 12 years. Bill is a geologist. He's worked for companies like Newmont, Freeport, McMoran, Teck Corporation. He's the mayor of the town that he lives in Idaho. He's very well connected and also very strong from a geologic perspective, and also a great guy to work with. Alan Roberts, I speak to him today because he is running our drill program. He's probably one of the most competent guys from a logistical perspective at running complex drill programs. So we're very fortunate to have Alan on board. Eric Klepfer is another Idahoan guy. He's a permitting specialist. That's a critical piece of any project in the United States, is getting projects permitted. And we're very fortunate to have Eric on our team. Just as important, on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see Austin Zenser. Austin is a younger geologist. He spent 12 years working at Perpetua Resources at the Stibnite project. He understands the rocks. He understands the geology. He sees everything that's been done over at Stibnite, and he sees the exact same potential at Horse Heaven that he's seen at Stibnite. And really, the geology that we have there, Bill and Austin refer to the Horse Heaven project not as closology, but as exactology. We really have the exact same geology that they have at Perpetua, and both of them see the potential for us to really be a Stibnite 2.0 after you throw a bunch of money at this thing from an exploration and development perspective. Brett Lynch and Steve Prominence are Australian guys. They're brought on as senior strategic advisors to the company. They're a fantastic couple of guys for someone like me to work with, because they've worked in critical metals in the United States with two companies, Lake Resources and Sayona Mining, and they've taken them from small cap to multi-billion-dollar cap companies in the critical metal space, and they are going to be helping us lead the charge as we ramp up from an exploration company through to a development company. So an extremely strong team, and it's this slide that I think you really should be focusing on. I now want to hand things over to Steve to speak to the next couple of slides. Steve, welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you all who are listening to this presentation. As Craig said, it is an exciting time, and this slide pretty much summarizes it. Antimony prices have gone up significantly. If you look at the graph on the right-hand side, and the reason they've gone up significantly is for three different reasons. First of all, China has turned off the tap. So there's not going to be antimony coming to the US. It's all imported at the moment. And the likelihood of that tap reopening at sometime soon is pretty low. And it's because it's not just a strategic metal, it's also a military metal. And so the chances of seeing imports from China again in processed material are pretty low. The second thing is inventory levels across the board are at critical lows anyway, not just in the US, but across the board, across the globe. Even China is having difficulties sourcing the appropriate inventory to run through their own plants. And then lastly, there are very few producers ex-China. There's only a few mines in a few various countries, and some of those aren't the easiest to deal with, such as Russia and Tajikistan. But when it comes to production and the final smelting, there's very few producers. So this is an exciting space, and I think will remain so. The other that's also a critical defense mineral is tungsten. It's been at a high price now for some time, and I think it will continue to trade at near record levels because, again, the issue is the US would like to see domestic product. A lot of this, again, is imported. So watch the space for those two. Very important from a strategic perspective. And then gold, as you probably all know, has gone very well in the last 12 to 18 months. And I think it's going to remain quite strong during these periods of global uncertainty and people looking to have a hedge against currencies. It's great to have gold in your portfolio. So I think it's going to perform well. If we could move on to the next slide, please, Craig. So why is antimony critical? Well, as I mentioned, China produces about 85, possibly even 90% of the actual production. They mine about half, but most of the production over the years has actually cycled through China to be processed to produce final product. And when they limited exports in September last year and then turned them off completely in December to the US, this has become very much a here and now issue. And so the US government is actively searching for ways that they can find alternative sources of supply and actually fill out a full supply chain. So what's antimony mainly used for? Well, you've heard about the wildfires. We've seen them in the West Coast. We're seeing them in Europe at the moment. I'm from Australia. We're very familiar with them. The fire retardants is one of the big uses of antimony. But once we leave that area, in the area of defense, munitions, missiles, night vision goggles, some of the latest technology on guided missiles are using antimony. And on munitions, this is why it was very popular back in World War I and World War II. It's used as a hardener together with lead. And as I mentioned, the production very limited outside of China, Russia, Tajikistan. So we're working with some others to try and change that and actually move it forward. Next slide, please. And tungsten is also a key input. Again, China is the world's primary producer, more than 60%. Now, you will notice a bit of a regular theme here. It's that China has been quite strategic on how it looks at metals across the board for the last couple of decades. And we've seen their ability to move, not necessarily owning the mines themselves, but moving that product through China into finished products and then exporting to the rest of the world. And this is why it's become a key issue, because with tungsten, it even has a greater usage in defense, particularly with armor plates and high-tech weapons. So although there is a range of various producers of tungsten, you see them here, apart from China, Vietnam, Russia, Bolivia, Spain, Again, we're working with others to try and change that and actually get more tungsten coming out of the US. Next slide, please, Craig. So if we put that together, that's why this has become quite an exciting phase. Now, the reason it's in RML at the moment is the Australian Securities Exchange has a long and deep history of supporting junior explorers and junior miners. And it's a great way to actually get a company going. You see our market value at the moment is about 70 million Aussie, that's about 50 million US. Don't get too worried about the number of shares on issue at 1,200 million shares. That's just the way Australian companies are set up. In the US, this would be 80 million, 100 million shares. Don't get concerned about the number of shares on issue. It's just quite standard for ASX companies. We've got a reasonable cash position. We've got a facility that we can use to ensure that we can drive this forward. And look, it's the share prices has reacted well on the announcement of the acquisition. It was only recent. The acquisition was only announced in June. It was only finalized at the very end of July. But this is why it's quite an exciting time to get involved with the company, because it's still early. And we've only just got on to the OTC board, ticker code RMLLF, and we aim to move that forward. And as you heard from Craig, the intention is to move to NASDAQ at some stage soon. Next slide, please.
So, Steve, thank you very much for that background on the industry and the company. That's super helpful. And when you were just speaking to the valuation of the company, I want the listeners to know that Steve was a former managing director of a company called Lake Resources, and he's seen how an Australian company sub $100 million can get up to well over $1 billion in market cap. And you're gonna make that happen with people, and you're gonna make that happen with projects, and we've got both of those things. And we're really happy to have Steve on board. I do want to make the listeners aware that we have received an unsolicited bid from Snow Lake Resources. They are a NASDAQ listed company. They have publicly announced that they own 5% of the company. The offer is non-binding and indicative. It's a significant valuation in terms of the offer that was made. The company is reviewing this offer and has made some public statements about that, and you can refer to the company news releases with respect to that. But I do just want to make people aware that that offer is out there, and I think the takeaway is that the offer at $225 million Australian is significantly higher than our market cap today. And I only tell you that because it clearly indicates to me that Resolution has picked up a project that's got a lot of significant potential, and third-party people are recognizing that. The presidential actions and support for critical metals in the United States are something that is going to play a critical role in the growth of this company going forward. The government, under the Big Beautiful Bill, has made a big push on developing domestic supplies of critical metals. The U.S. government has announced, as part of the Big Beautiful Bill, $5 billion in funding for critical metals. Subsequent to that, another announcement was made for an additional, I think, $1 billion going into the sector. So we really are in the right place at the right time in terms of a critical metals perspective, and being in the United States in a very mining-friendly jurisdiction in Idaho. We are well positioned. We brought on Roth Capital to help us with our NASDAQ listing. They are advising us on the NASDAQ listing, as well as this transaction that I mentioned with respect to Snow Lake. Past investment by the U.S. government in this sector, it's something that we are interested in. The U.S. government has invested in the Perpetua project next door, and this is something that we are going to be pursuing. We have engaged a lobbyist in Washington, D.C., Thorn Run Partners, as well as another individual, Kluwik Global Services, and they have been retained to help introduce us to the Idaho delegation, as well as the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, and the other people in Washington that play a role in the development of the critical metals cycle in the United States. Again, we are pursuing a NASDAQ listing in addition to the OTC symbol that we are trading under now. Thank you very much for listening to us today and allowing us to share this exciting story with you. That concludes our presentation. I think we'll lead this into a Q&A, and I've got some questions popping up here. You are more than welcome to drop questions into that Q&A, but I see a couple that have are coming up here. One is actually addressed to Steve, and it is, Steve, with your history in critical metals in the U.S. and the success that you had with Lake Resources, what attracted you in particular to Resolution?
Well, look, thank you very much. So I've been quite fortunate since leaving Lake a couple of years ago that a number of things come across my desk, particularly in either battery minerals or critical minerals space. What I liked about this was that on first blush, it just looked to be near the Perpetua project called Stibnite. But on review, I could actually see that essentially it was one part of one huge system. So there was an opportunity essentially for this to be the mirror image of Perpetua Stibnite mine. So that from a technical perspective was exciting. And then secondly, Craig and Ari, the executive director, and the team in general quickly put together a team to develop a whole end-to-end solution. Not just, oh, we're going to be doing some drilling and we'll get a resource and we'll raise some money, but actually look at this from who is the end user, how can we actually accelerate this and deliver a full solution of production and material to the end users here in the US. So there's actually a stable supply chain. And that in itself is quite exciting. Brett Lynch is part of that. He's done this sort of work before. So it's for those two reasons. Thank you very much for the question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question here. Is it correct that previous drilling never tested for tungsten or antimony despite the known production history? If that's correct, why are you so confident that antimony will be there? So yes, this project did produce historically both antimony and tungsten from two separate areas on the project, that being Golden Gate and Antimony Ridge. The drilling that was done in 86, 87, and 94, the two companies that did that drilling at the time, the critical metals were not on the edge of people's tongues. They were only focused on going after shallow, open pit, oxide gold mineralization that would have been near surface. The deepest holes they drilled were only from surface to 500 feet. And because they were focused on drilling for an open pit oxide gold story, they actually never did they never did assay for tungsten. They never assayed for antimony. So in all the drilling that we do going forward, we will be assaying for that. And I think over at Golden Gate, where we're drilling right now, that's where there was past production of tungsten. So I think it's reasonable to assume that we will see some tungsten in our drilling this year. Key milestones for investors that we should be watching for from Horse Heaven over the next 6 to 12 months, both in terms of exploration and corporate developments. Can you share these with us? Yes. So over the next 6 to 12 months, we've got a drill program ongoing right now. We'll be drilling to the end of October. Number two, we're just in the process of doing some field mapping and sampling at Golden Gate, at Antimony Creek or Antimony Ridge, at something called Vibica Creek. And we're also doing some stream sediment sampling work that we're planning for the fall. On a parallel basis, this fall, we're going to be initiating a new plan of operation for a larger expanded drill permit that's going to allow us to drill not just at Golden Gate, where we're permitted to drill now, but also over at Antimony Ridge and some other emerging exploration targets. Thirdly, we're going to be on a parallel basis out in Washington, D.C., knocking on doors, looking for introducing our story to the Idaho delegation and to the Department of Defense, Department of Energy. So that's going to be a backstory that you're going to hear a lot about. And then next year, with an appropriate level of funding, I hope to see a very accelerated level of drilling at Golden Gate. We talked about only drilling 10 to 20 holes this year. We've got 57 permitted holes out there. So we hope to get a full season of drilling under us in 2026. And we may even be able to do some drilling out at Antimony Ridge in addition to Golden Gate next year. So there's a whole range of things that are going on over the next 6 to 12 months. So I think in terms of news flow, it's going to be a very, very exciting time for the company. So I think our time is up. I really appreciate the feedback in the Q&A. We are very open to having one-on-one conversations with any interested investors, and you can arrange that through the conference facilities. We very much look forward to welcoming some new shareholders to our shareholder registry in the coming months. Look forward to speaking to you again in the very near future. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.